Ladies and gentlemen, there's something about life that will always keep you on your toes. It's the tests, the trials, the tribulations, the quiet moments where you wonder if God sees you, hears you, or even knows your name. But let me tell you something. God's tests are not meant to break you. They're meant to build you. They're not designed to destroy you. They're designed to define you. And when you pass them, when you pass them, you'll know. One of the clearest signs that you've passed God's test is an unshakable peace in chaos. Life may still throw its storms your way, but somehow you don't flinch the same way you used to. You're not running around trying to fix what only God can fix. There's a calmness in your spirit because you know who's in control. That peace, it's your confirmation. It's God saying, you trusted me in the storm, and now you're ready for the next level. And then suddenly doors start opening without force. You know what I mean. You're not trying to kick them down. You're not bargaining with God. You're not exhausting yourself trying to make things happen. Those opportunities, they'll come to you. God is a God of alignment, and when you pass the test, He aligns you with your destiny. You won't have to beg for it. It'll feel like the door was waiting for you to arrive. Here's another sign. Your relationships change. Listen to me now. Some people can't go with you to the next level, and that's okay. God will remove the people who no longer serve your growth, and He'll bring new ones into your life, people who sharpen you, encourage you, and remind you of your calling. It might hurt when some people leave, but trust me, it's God's way of pruning you for your promotion. And then there's this. You start walking with purpose. You're not wondering anymore, not guessing what you're supposed to do. God refines your vision, and suddenly things that used to distract you don't even get your attention anymore. You see the path clearly, and you're laser focused on what God has called you to do. But here's a big one. You elevate without bitterness. Can I say that again? You elevate without bitterness. When you see someone else get blessed, you don't flinch. You don't question why it's their turn and not yours. You don't carry envy in your heart because you know your blessing is tailor-made. Your promotion is custom-built. And when you pass the test, you understand that what God has for you is for you. Finally, you'll know you've passed the test because your life becomes a testimony. People will look at you and say, "How did they do it?" And you'll point them straight to God. Your scars become stories of triumph. Your struggles turn into blueprints for someone else's breakthrough. And in every step, you'll know you didn't just pass the test. You graduated with honors in God's eyes. So let me ask you today, are you ready to recognize the signs? Are you ready to stop fighting against the test and start passing it? Because the next level is waiting. Your elevation is already written. All you have to do is trust the process, hold the faith, and keep walking forward. You're closer than you think. The test wasn't there to stop you. It was there to prepare you. And when God says it's time, nothing can stand in your way. Ladies and gentlemen, when you pass God's test, one of the most undeniable signs is a peace that cannot be shaken. Peace in the middle of the storm. And I'm not talking about the kind of peace that comes when everything is going your way. No, I'm talking about the peace that shows up when life is upside down. When the bills are due, the job is unstable, relationships are strained, and the future seems uncertain. This is a peace that doesn't make sense. It's the kind that leaves people wondering how you're still standing. It's a peace rooted in trust, a trust that says, no matter what, I know my God is in control. When you pass God's test, you don't panic like you used to. The old you would have tried to fix everything on your own, running from one solution to another, wearing yourself out trying to figure out what only God could fix. But not anymore. Now, there's a stillness in your spirit. You've learned that God works best when you step aside and let Him take the lead. You've discovered that peace doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from knowing the one who holds the answers. You may still be surrounded by chaos, but something in you has shifted. What once triggered anxiety now triggers prayer. What used to shake your confidence now strengthens your faith. You don't react to the noise around you because you've learned to listen for the still, small voice of God within you. And that voice tells you, I've got this. That voice tells you, I'm working all things together for your good. That voice reminds you that no storm can sink a ship when Jesus is on board. This peace isn't a feeling, it's a decision. You've decided that no matter what happens, you will trust God. You will stand on His promises even when the ground feels like it's crumbling. And that trust unlocks a level of calm that can only come from heaven. It's not that the problems go away. It's that they no longer have the power to control your heart. When you've passed God's test, you realize that peace isn't found in a change of circumstances. It's found in the presence of God. You can walk through the valley of the shadow of death and still fear no evil because you know who walks with you. And that peace, it's your proof. It's God whispering to you, you made it through the test. You're ready for the next level. When you've passed God's test, something extraordinary begins to happen. Doors start to open, and you don't have to force them. You don't have to manipulate situations, plead for opportunities, or push past every obstacle in desperation. What once seemed impossible now becomes possible, and what once felt out of reach begins to fall into place with divine timing. It's not because you've worked harder or gotten smarter. It's because God has determined that. Think back to those moments when you tried to push open a door that God hadn't yet unlocked. You exhausted yourself, didn't you? You may have even questioned why things weren't moving fast enough. But here's the thing. When God says a door isn't for you or isn't for you yet, it doesn't matter how hard you push. That door will remain shut until He says otherwise. And that's not a punishment. It's protection. God doesn't want you walking through the wrong doors at the wrong time. But when you've passed His test, when you've shown that you're ready for the next level, doors will open with ease. Opportunities will come your way, and it won't feel like a struggle. You won't have to manipulate or scheme. You won't have to chase what God has already aligned for you. When the door is God's door, it won't require force. It will require faith. Sometimes the opening of a door isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It's a phone call you didn't expect. It's a conversation that shifts in your favor. It's a chance encounter with someone who has the authority to help you take the next step. And you'll know it's God because everything about it will be smooth, not without effort, but without resistance. You'll feel peace instead of anxiety. You'll sense His presence guiding you through. And here's the beauty of it. When the right doors open, they will lead to the right blessings. You won't have to sacrifice your integrity to walk through them. You won't have to pretend to be something you're not. God's doors are custom made for your purpose, your character, and your journey. And once He's opened them, no one, not your enemies, not your circumstances, not even your own fears, can shut them. So if you're standing before a door today, wondering when it will open, stop pushing, stop forcing. Instead, trust God's timing. Because when the time is right and the test is passed, you won't have to fight for the opportunity. It will be waiting for you, and all you'll need to do is step through with faith. When you've passed God's test, your relationships begin to change, and not just any change, but a shift towards strength, clarity, and alignment. People who once drained your spirit or distracted you from your purpose start to fade from your life. It's not always easy to let go, and sometimes you won't even have to make the decision. God will do it for you, and when He does, trust that it's for your good. He's pruning your life, preparing you for where He's taking you. You see, not everyone is meant to go with you to the next level. Some people were only there for a season, and trying to hold on to them after their season has passed will only weigh you down. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It doesn't mean you're better than them. It simply means that their purpose in your life has been fulfilled, and now God is making space for new connections. Divinely orchestrated relationships that will help you grow. But it's not just about people leaving, it's also about new relationships being formed. When you pass God's test, He brings the right people into your life. These are people who understand your calling and push you to be better. They're not threatened by your success, nor are they envious of your blessings. Instead, they celebrate with you. They pray for you. They offer wisdom and support when the road gets tough. And most importantly, they hold you accountable when you start to stray from your purpose. God knows you can't reach the next level alone. That's why He aligns you with people who are walking in their own purpose. Together, you form bonds that are rooted in faith and trust, not competition or insecurity. These relationships aren't just surface level. They're built to last. They're strengthened through shared experiences, mutual respect, and a deep understanding of each other's journey. And here's the thing. When you've passed God's test, you'll also notice that you're stronger in how you handle relationships. You stop chasing after people who don't value you. You stop trying to fix relationships that God has already released. And you stop sacrificing your peace just to keep someone in your life. Instead, you lean into discernment, knowing who to invest in and who to let go of with love. So pay attention to the relationships in your life. If people are leaving, let them go with grace. If new connections are forming, embrace them with faith. And through it all, trust that God is working behind the scenes to position you exactly where you need to be, surrounded by people who will walk with you into your next season. When you've passed God's test, something powerful happens. You begin to walk with a refined sense of purpose. You're no longer drifting through life, chasing after what looks good or feels right in the moment. Instead, you gain a crystal clear understanding of who you are, what you're meant to do, and the path that God has laid out for you. It's not that every single detail is revealed all at once. Sometimes God will only show you one step at a time, but your spirit is aligned with His vision. You move with confidence, knowing that each step is divinely directed. Before you passed the test, you may have struggled with confusion. You may have questioned your worth or doubted your calling. Perhaps you tried to fit into roles that weren't meant for you or pursued things that brought temporary satisfaction but left your soul unfulfilled. But after passing the test, all of that uncertainty begins to fall away. God doesn't just reveal your purpose, He sharpens it. He clarifies the direction so you can stop wandering and start walking with intention. A refined sense of purpose doesn't mean life suddenly becomes easy. In fact, it often brings new responsibilities and bigger challenges. But because you know your purpose, you stop wasting time on distractions. You're not moved by every new opportunity that comes your way because you know what's aligned with your calling and what's not. You don't seek validation from others because you've learned that true fulfillment comes from following God's plan. You also begin to steward your gifts differently. You realize that the talents and abilities God has given you aren't just for your benefit. They are meant to serve others and bring glory to His name. Whether you're called to lead, teach, create, or build, you do it with a heart of service. And because you're walking in your purpose, your work is no longer a burden, it's a blessing. Even when it's hard, you're fueled by a deep sense of joy and fulfillment because you know you're exactly where you're meant to be. When you've passed God's test, distractions that once pulled you away from your calling no longer have the same hold on you. Old habits, negative thinking, and the opinions of others lose their power. Instead, you're focused on what truly matters, doing the work God has called you to do with excellence, faith, and love. And as you move forward with this refined sense of purpose, you'll find that every step you take is a step closer to the destiny God has prepared for you. When you've passed God's test, one of the most beautiful signs is how you handle elevation, with grace, joy, and without bitterness. Elevation doesn't just mean material blessings or public success. It's a shift in your spirit, a lifting of your life to new heights, and a positioning in a place of purpose. But what makes this elevation significant is how your heart stays clean through it all. You're not carrying resentment from the past. You're not holding on to the weight of old hurts or disappointments. Instead, you rise with a heart that is free and unburdened. You may have faced rejection before reaching this point. Maybe people overlooked you, doubted your ability, or even tried to block your progress. Yet when God elevates you, those same people can't stop what He's doing in your life. But here's the key. Passing the test means you don't carry bitterness toward them. You've learned that holding on to resentment only hinders your progress. So instead of seeking revenge or holding grudges, you choose forgiveness. You let go, not because they deserved it, but because you refuse to let bitterness poison your elevation. When you pass the test, you also stop comparing your journey to others. You no longer feel the need to compete or prove yourself because you understand that what God has for you is for you. You celebrate the success of others because you know there is enough blessing to go around. And when your time comes, you step into it with humility, not entitlement. You know that elevation is a gift from God, not something you earned by your own strength. This kind of elevation also comes with a sense of responsibility. You're not elevated just for your own benefit. You're elevated to serve. Whether it's mentoring someone else, sharing your testimony, or using your platform to uplift others, you realize that God's blessings are meant to flow through you, not stop with you. You're no longer driven by selfish ambition or pride. Instead, you're fueled by a desire to honor God with every opportunity He places in your hands. And perhaps the most powerful sign that you've passed the test is that you can enjoy your blessings without guilt or apology. You're not looking over your shoulder, waiting for the other shoe to drop. You're not consumed with fear that you'll lose what God has given you. Instead, you walk in peace, knowing that your elevation is secure because it comes from the one who holds the universe in His hands. You understand that no one can take what God has ordained for you. So when you see yourself being elevated, when doors are opening, when blessings are flowing, when your spirit feels lifted, check your heart. If you can walk in that new season without bitterness, without resentment, and without fear, that's when you know you've passed God's test. And now you're ready to rise to even greater heights. When you've passed God's test, your life becomes a living testimony that glorifies Him. It's no longer just about what you went through. It's about how God carried you through. It's about how He made a way when there was no way, how He strengthened you in your weakest moments, and how He transformed your pain into purpose. Your story becomes a reflection of His power, His grace, and His faithfulness. You begin to speak with a boldness you didn't have before. The things you used to be ashamed of, the failures, the heartbreaks, the setbacks, become part of your testimony. You no longer hide those experiences because you understand that God used them to shape you. You realize that someone else needs to hear how God worked in your life so they can believe He'll do the same for them. You speak not from a place of pride, but from a place of humility and gratitude. Passing the test also means that your testimony points back to God, not to yourself. It's easy to get caught up in our own accomplishments and say, "Look what I did." But when you've passed the test, you know the truth. It was never just you. It was God's strength when you were weak. It was His wisdom when you didn't know what to do. It was His provision when you had nothing left. And because you know that, you give Him all the glory. But a testimony isn't just about words. It's about the life you live. When others see the joy, peace, and strength you carry, they see God's hand on you. They see how you've changed, how you've grown, and how you now walk with purpose and faith. And when they ask you how you did it, you point them back to the one who made it possible. Your testimony also serves as a beacon of hope for those still in the middle of their test. When they hear your story, they realize that their struggles are not the end of the road. They see that God is still working, even in the darkest moments. And because you chose to share your story, they're encouraged to hold on a little longer, to trust a little deeper, and to believe that their breakthrough is coming too. When you pass God's test, you understand that your testimony is not just for you. It's a tool for transformation. It's a light that shines in dark places. It's a message that says, if God did it for me, He can do it for you too. And as you share that testimony with the world, you glorify God in every word, every step, and every blessing that follows. When you pass God's test, it's not just about surviving the struggle. It's about stepping into a new season with undeniable proof that you're ready for the next level. You'll know you've made it because there will be signs all around you. You'll walk with an unshakable peace. Even when storms rage around you, your spirit will be still because you've learned to trust God more than your circumstances. You've learned that peace isn't the absence of problems, it's the presence of God. Doors will begin to open without force. What you once had to push for will now come with ease. And you'll know it's God's doing because those doors won't require compromise or manipulation. They'll be doors meant for you, perfectly aligned with your purpose. Your relationships will shift. Those who were only meant for a season will fade away, and new connections will be formed. Relationships rooted in faith, trust, and mutual purpose. You'll stop chasing after people who don't value you and start embracing those who are part of God's plan for your next level. Your sense of purpose will be sharpened. No longer will you wander or question who you are. You'll move with intention, knowing that God's vision for your life is clearer than ever. You'll stop being distracted by the world's noise and start focusing on what truly matters. When you're elevated, you'll rise without bitterness. You'll let go of past hurts, forgiving those who tried to hold you back. You'll celebrate your blessings without guilt and without fear, because you know your elevation comes from God and no one can take it away. And finally, your life will become a testimony, a living, breathing story of God's grace and power. You won't hide what you've been through because you'll know that your testimony is the key to someone else's breakthrough. Every step you take will point back to the one who carried you through. So if you're wondering whether you've passed God's test, take a look at your life. Are you walking with peace? Are doors opening without force? Are your relationships strengthening, your purpose sharpening, and your heart free from bitterness? If the answer is yes, then rejoice. You've passed the test, and God is preparing you for even greater things. Keep trusting, keep walking in faith, and as you move into your next season, know that every sign you see is God saying, "Well done. You're ready."